All right, welcome to the show, folks. It's good to have you here. I hope you're having an amazing day. It is 2023, the year of Jesus Christ. And, a lot of people say, hey, what am I going to do this year? Well, you can have your New Year's resolutions. And as usual, if you would like to share your New Year's resolutions, feel comfortable to do so right now. I won't hold that against you at all. And in a second, I would like to, do a little test here and test if you think this is a good camera setting. Because I never know what people are interested in. Some people like fun shows. Some people like crazy shows. And some people like something in between. And it all depends on what audience we have in front of us at the moment. Now, because I've mentioned that, I want to just say, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're joining the most unique show of the century. And I don't say that with any vanity, I don't think I've invented things or created things in any unique way. I think that I just simply paid attention to what people like and have chosen to give them exactly that. With that said, I think that, the people who want to join the charge are here, and the people that don't want to join the charge, obviously they have chosen not to join. Sorry, I'm just adding some things to the repertoire. But I respect people from all walks of life, even those who cannot walk, because I do not discriminate. Even if I seem like a discriminating person, that's not true. It is 100% bullshit, and I stand by that. And I need to get more paper here because God knows I need to get that. Let me take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that things are going exactly in the direction that I'm interested in, and then we'll see where things go from there. But live broadcasting, live entertainment is something that I have always been passionate about. Just trying to look for the jacket I had here recently. I don't see it, but it's very common for things to disappear. So this is the hat I'm wearing for this segment in particular. I just think that anybody who tunes in, anybody who wants to join the show is, they're on my good person list. And I have my good person list is a very short list of folks who pass the smell test, and that doesn't mean that I like to smell people. It just simply means that I like to make sure that people are genuine and make sure that they are doing things that are consistent with my values as well as their own values. That's one of the main issues I had with Red Bar at the beginning. He seemed like a guy who was having fun, doing his own thing. The only problem was that his thing was something that I didn't really enjoy, It ended up being something that I felt was, I think one of the biggest fallacies going on is that Red Bar thought that I wasn't onto his jokes, that I didn't get what he was doing. And it wasn't that, it wasn't that I didn't understand what he was doing. It was just that I felt like I didn't like what he was doing, and that's a big difference. A lot of people will condescend and they'll say, "Oh, all right, you're not having fun. I guess you don't enjoy my jokes." No, I understand your jokes. I don't think that your jokes are so smart. Like, for example, it's not that clever to call Stan Lee's fans and tell them that they are stupid, or comment on their page and say, "Hey, you guys are stupid." I could do that with, I could do the same thing. I could call a Dungeons and Dragons tournament and say, "Hey, you guys are a bunch of nerds." But that wouldn't be me being clever, and that wouldn't be me being smart. That would just be simply, playing into the average, very common point of view, "Oh, let's shit on these nerds, And yes, okay, to be fair, they are nerds, but so is Red Bar. He's a guy who brags about his latest Mac Pro computer. He's a guy who his biggest accomplishment is things he's done on social media. And he's a guy who really doesn't spend much time leaving his house unless he's hanging out with Sven Stoffels. So, I don't really see where the value is in terms of what he's bringing, and I don't really see what he's doing that is that entertaining. And, Red Bar, Unbleached, good to see you here. It's great to see you here. You're one of the top people in our world who is, bringing the funny and entertaining shows on a regular basis. Maybe not now because you're sort of in your retirement, but obviously if you ever wanted to return we would welcome you with open arms. I know you have some stuff going on recently, but that's nobody's business. The point is that Red Bar is antisocial, and he was very affected. He was very affected when you said that you didn't want to be in his group. He was very upset. He said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he might have said something like, what the hell are you doing? And if you can have that kind of effect on a broadcaster, on a high level broadcaster, then it shows that you have some significance in the world, And obviously people know that, I've had Provo Kid and AOC reach out to me, Provo Kid specifically, he wants me to let you know that he would like to hang out with you. So, if you want to, message Provo Kid. I'm not really sure what his vibe is or what he's doing in the world, but the point is, when it's very clear when you're making an impact on these streamers that, whether they would, because I have to imagine that if Red Bar could, he wouldn't make it obvious that you are having an effect on him. But even despite the fact that he didn't want you to know that you were upsetting him, he still subconsciously or unconsciously, on some level, he had to let you know that you were having an effect on him, which means you have a significant impact and a potential to impact a lot of people in the live stream world. There are these people that I don't have to name necessarily. I'm not afraid to name them. It's more that I don't know if I want to name them because I don't know if I want to continue my very clear resentments against them. But, there are folks out there that thrive on significance. And when they have an impact and they make when they make some kind of point, they want you to know that they've done a good job and they've done a great job. And that's almost why I'm hesitant to even bring them up, because they don't really matter, If they did, I would still be talking about them, but I'm not. And that is, that's because, I think about these folks the same way I think about Sam Hill, which is that, sure, they exist, but they're not having any impact on the larger meta or the larger community of broadcasts. They're simply, they're internet special boys, as you say. They have this desire to matter, but it's very clear, to me at least, and I think to you as well, that their desire to matter is very much, it's very desperate. If you really look at it, and you look at the way that the folks around them act, it's very desperate and it's very sad, and it comes from a place of feeling like they don't really matter. And when you feel like you don't really matter, you're gonna look for validation wherever you can. And that's why I don't really feel like bringing these people up in name specifically, Because if I were to name these folks, it would give them a sense of being meaningful. And let's be honest, they are nobodies. And the only reason I do bring them up is to give examples of people who have, they have all the confidence and ego in the world when it comes to being live performers, but that speaks 0% to their competence of actually doing so. Anybody who is delusional can think that they are great on the internet or on the microphone, but that doesn't actually mean that they know what they're doing. All it means is that they are happy to show their face on the internet. And let's be honest, a lot of these people don't even show their face. They just show up and they put themselves, they put their logo up there, and that's it, And they're so proud when they get 1,000 viewers. Yes, like you said, anybody can host a StreamYard with 6 other people, and I think that's one of the things that's really being lost in this whole StreamYard world is the fact that more isn't always better. The more the merrier is the saying, but I don't think that people necessarily are doing a better show just because they got more people to show up. If that were the case, then Wendy Pack would have the greatest show on the internet. But, as much as I love Wendy and I support her, I wouldn't say that that's the case. She has 15 people show up at a time, but, is she doing relevant shows? No. Like when I have 2 people, 3 people on panel, that's about the best that we can ask for. And I think that is, just a little more reasonable as far as things go. Like you said, less is more. And I think that's true. And I think that people just need to understand that. And once they can understand that that's the case, I think we will get to a better place. Because, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because we're all American or it's because we all have big egos, or at least a lot of us. But for some reason, we seem to and when I say we, I'm talking about folks like Sam Hill, folks like, the unmentionables. I guess I'm willing to mention Sam Hill because I'm not a 10 out of 10 in terms of resenting him. Some of these other people, I resent them so much that I don't even want to bring up their names. Not because I'm afraid of them. I'm more afraid of my own tendency to obsess about them and think about how much I hate them. So it's not a fear of them, it's more of a fear of my own tendency to get obsessed and think about the people that I don't like and what I don't like about them, which, I guess if you wanted to be technical, you could say it's a fear of them, but I'm not afraid of what they're going to do. I'm just afraid of what I'm going to think about them and what I'm going to obsess about them in my mind. Anyway, nonetheless, that's why I don't talk about people like Rex and others in that whole world. I just think that it will make me be a version of myself that I don't want to be, which is, Ian Ellis, good or bad. One thing I appreciate about him is that he has reached out to me in this time and just, actually, I don't even need to get into that because I don't like to I don't like to share people's private discussions. It's not important. Just simply, I'm working towards the future, you know? I'm working to make things better. And on Bleach, you know, if you ever want to join the show in the future, you know, feel free to join in, you know. Obviously, you've made many efforts to promote the HB channel in the past, as well as the Hostbusters programs, you know, and as well as just anything I'm doing in general. So, with that said, you know, if you're ever doing anything to promote my channel or anything in the future, you know, let me know. And I would be happy to, you know, have you involved. With that said, you know, we're working toward a new era of things and people, and because of that, I had paper here. Okay. Alright, so because of that, you know, we're going to work in a new direction. You know, but as far as things that I want to invent, things that I want to create, one of the things that I want to create is some kind of, you know, I want to create a free center for a free studio for broadcasters to show up and do their shows. You know, like a theater or a club where people can either do their stand-up, their live streams either on a stage or in a studio. Once I have the funds, and it's going to cost, it's probably going to cost around $250,000 to make this happen, but the end goal that I have here is that I want to create a sort of a comedy club, but more of a streaming club, the first of its kind, where we have live podcasts and live streams, and there's two kinds. There's either the on stage with an audience type of thing, or there is a private studio type of thing. I guess technically speaking, it wouldn't be the first of its kind, because I believe that Kevin Smith has done a similar thing with his comedy club, with his comedy world. You know, so I wouldn't be the first person to do this, but certainly, you know, it would be something that I'm looking to do. And, you know, $250K, and obviously it's going to take a while to get there. But I just think that it would be one of the things to get people out there and interested in doing this, you know. And we wouldn't do it, you know, because Comedy Mothership has this whole thing where they don't want people to film things. We wouldn't be quite as strict as that. We would just say, you know, if you want to do it, if you want to be there, just don't, you know, we would probably check for weapons, and that's about it, you know. We're not anti-gun all around. We just don't want you to bring your guns into the studio. So that's what we would do. You know, it's going to take a while, and maybe stand-up but I don't know. You know, the sky is the limit. Another thing that we want to do is some kind of setup where people can create exactly what they want to create. When I say that, It's a multifaceted program, so whether you want to create art, magazines, books, movies, television shows, short films, short videos, video games, websites, clothing, paintings, applications, woodworking projects, 3D printing projects, laser guided metal formations, paper origami projects, sports videos, skate videos, DIY home projects, candle making type of stuff, sculptures. Yeah, we'll definitely allow that as well. And then just general DIY of any kind, we'll allow all of that stuff. That will be in our maker space, the HB Makerspace 1.0. We'll probably work on that more in the future. Now your question is, will there be a locker to check in your gun for safekeeping? I would consider that. Maybe not for everyone, but at least for the folks that are preferred members of the club. And when I say that, it's either friends of the club or people who have been there many times. What about guys who make their art with their own shit? Now, when you say their own shit, what are you referring to? Because I guess that depends. I don't mind if somebody brings their own stuff there, but it all depends on what they're doing, Like, if their art is doing 360 spins in a pickup truck, I don't know that we can accommodate that because we don't really have the area for that. Now, there's already a space in Allentown where this is possible to set up, but I don't know that that is the most central human shit. I don't know. We'll have to think about that. We'll have to, that will be consideration. Their own shit. You mean literal? Okay, their own shit. All right. I didn't pick up on that. I thought you meant their own stuff. Yeah. If that's what you're into, I hate to discourage creativity, but I don't know if we're able to accommodate that. That might be a little difficult. That might be a pushing our limits in terms of what we are able to accomplish. But if you're able to do anything other than that, I'm sure we're able to, figure it out, if you could give me a reasonable explanation as to why you want to use your own shit to make the art, and if you can give a convincing enough explanation, I would entertain it. But if you can't do that, then I don't know, how would this venue make money? Now, it's not really about making money. It's just about providing a space for people to have good experiences and create their art, As long as there's enough money to stay afloat, that would be good enough. I don't really think that I don't know. This would preferably I would create this in a time where I already have the funds to keep it afloat regardless of whether it is successful or not. There were tons of places like this in Boston. They're all gone now. Really? So you had a lot of like maker space types of places? Is that what you're saying? You know, I did see one place like this recently, and I haven't learned too much about it since then. But you know, obviously it's possible. It all depends on how you get people to fund it. And, you know, maybe we would have a suggested donation between $5 and $15 per visit for people. And maybe we would try and find a place that is willing to take those kind of donations. That's, you know, the best answer I can give at the moment. I'm not really sure other than that, unless we get online people to fund it. But, you know, that might be a far-fetched type of thing. Sort of like what you're describing, but not as incumbent of podcasting and comedy. Yeah, you know, it's a whole complicated thing. Where's my paper? Hold on one second. You know, the skate industry. And so, as far as podcasting goes, as far as broadcasting goes, you know, that will be its own thing. It's going to take a little while to just figure it out and make things happen. I just think that 2023 is a new year, and because of that, I want to get started on some new activities. So we talked about the maker space and that kind of thing, you know. But I also want to talk about skateboarding and, you know, because I've looked at my, you know, I've looked at things and I've decided that I want to become more of a skater, more of a, you know, I want to be more athletic and in shape, and because of that, you know, I just think that it's going to require effort, you know, and I kind of thinking that becoming familiar with the skate industry is maybe what it's going to take, you know. Becoming familiar with what's happening these days in the skate world is what it's really going to be all about. You know, I've spoken to some people like Giovanni Retta, Chris Roberts, Clyde Singleton, and possibly some other folks. The CEO, I think, of Skateboarder magazine, and they, you know, they all say that the future of skateboarding is the internet. You know, even though there's magazines and skate videos and things of that nature, the future really lies on the internet. And for that reason, you know, I think that if I'm going to do a podcast, and I'm going to do anything like that, I need to be internet focused. I need to pay attention to what's coming out on the internet, you know, whether it's friends of mine or people who are not friends of mine. I need to look at what they're doing. So, Crooked is a brand that Mark Gonzalez has created, and I've enjoyed them quite a bit. If I could, even before I make, a maker space or anything like that, I would love to get involved with something like a skate park. It has been my dream to do something like that, So apparently Crooked has put out a skate video, a UK tour video. And I've always appreciated Mark Gonzalez's approach to skateboarding. I always felt like it was, for lack of a better term, it was on the artistic side of things. He has appreciated things and given them a chance, whether they have deserved a chance or not. And I guess that's just something I've always respected about him. He was in the Skate game, possibly Skate 2 as well. I don't know if he was in Skate 3. He was in Video Days, but there's kind of two ends of things. There's Paul Rodriguez, who does everything, picture perfect every time. And there's Mark Gonzalez, who has a, more of a sketchy style of doing his tricks, and yet still he seems to accomplish things and get them done quite well. So can't really blame him on that. But if I could, I would like to get people, whether it, on Bleach, if you ever end up in the Philadelphia area, it would be nice to go down to Municipal Plaza and skate the Monopoly parks. Hit me up if you're ever interested. That's something that I want to do. There's like what looks like a wheelbarrow and maybe a hat that you can skate, as well as some dominoes pieces. All that is in that area. Unfortunately, we do not have Love Park to deal with anymore, but let me know if you're ever in the area. We're also dealing with let's see, people are creating videos in the game session. They're creating skate videos for people to appreciate. That's interesting. There's also, because people will make skate videos, but they will also make videos in video games. And honestly, some of these games, like Session specifically, are so advanced that it's near impossible to differentiate the game from real. I mean, yes, you can tell the difference, but the physics are getting so real that you can barely tell the difference, if at all. And that's where we're at. The new version of Skate will come out at some point. I don't know exactly when that's going to be. I have to check out if Slap Magazine is still around. That's an old magazine that it used to exist. Let me take a look here. I'm just curious if it still exists, or if it's a if it's something of the past. Because somehow Trans World Skateboarding has managed to exist over all these years, even in the time where, all right, you know, let's see. I believe it's, let's see if Skate Daily is around. SkateDaily.net. Alright, let's look at this page. Oh, we can't. Alright, let me look at it on Instagram. One second. You know, because Skate Daily used to be the #1 source for me back in the day for this kind of stuff. Alright, let's see. SkateDaily.net. Let's see if they have any information. We've got a Thrasher video. You know, it's amazing that people are doing the full loop these days. We've got this girl, you know, we've got women now doing the full loop, and it's pretty impressive. You know, and it proves that girls aren't the only ones capable of doing this kind of stuff. You never know who's going to do it. Guy's doing a 5-0 down a staircase. So yeah, anyway, I don't have too much detail here, but all kinds of folks are doing it, and doing it pretty well in the world of broadcasting and the world of skateboarding. So I'll be right back and we will do some more. All right, so let's take a look at what we have next to talk about. Oh, that's no good. That's no good. Let's see if the next thing is any good. No. No. Come on. All right. So, I guess I have not found the new source of interest. Let me eat some food at the moment, at least. Art. What is art? You know? What makes it so great? That is a great question. I'm glad you asked me. As far as art goes, it is a complicated process. It is a complicated thing. And if you want to create the best art, you know, you don't necessarily need the best paint. What you need is the best inspiration. You know, the best people around you telling you what is great. And if you can get that, you really can get anything. You know, like some people say that Pablo Picasso is the greatest. Some people say that Matisse is the greatest. Some people would say that Leonardo da Vinci is the greatest. Some people would say that Grandma Moses is the greatest. Some people would say that Vincent van Gogh is the greatest. Some people would say that Shel Silverstein is the greatest, and he's not even a painting. Some people would say that the guy who painted the Mona Lisa was the greatest, you know? And I think that is a crazy thing. You know, like, let me take a look. Did I already cover the painter of the Mona Lisa? That was Da Vinci, so that doesn't even count. You know. Whether we're talking about Frida Kahlo, you know, Rembrandt, Michelangelo, Jackson Pollock, Paul Cézanne. There's a lot of painters out there that are, you know, quite interesting. You know, we could talk about Salvador Dali. He's got quite the interesting artistic style with the melting clocks and so on. We've got Renoir, Munch, Manet, Rubens, Caravaggio, Velázquez, Gentilice, Degas, Seurat, Andy Warhol, of course, Wassily Kandinsky, René Magritte, Sandro Botticelli, Jacques Louis David, Pierre Bruegel the Elder, Grant Wood, Tamara de Lempicka, Mary Cassatt, Francisco Goya, as in Goya beans, David Hockney, Jasper Johns, Al Greco, Eugene Delacroix, Edward Hopper, John Van Eyck, Paul Gauguin, Giotto, Georgia Brock, John Antoine Watteau, Edouard Schiele, Théotin, Francis Bacon, Gustave, Piet Mondrian, Caspar David Friedrich, all the people that matter when we're talking about making a difference in art. But that's not all of the people out there. Because as much as we want to give credit to the main artists, we also want to talk about artists in the skateboarding world, which would include Ed Templeton, Neil Blender, Mark Gonzalez, as I mentioned in the skate part of this show, Obey, James Jean, Mark McKee, Tony Alva, Tony Guerrero, Jeremy Klein, Chad Muska, Tony Bertrude, Jeremy Fish, Pushhead, Jim Hauser. They are people that matter in the world of skate and will always matter until the future, when nothing matters. So, that's my take on artistic folks. Sometimes I like the artistic people, sometimes I find them quite annoying, but that's my own problem. Nonetheless, I appreciate you joining this show, and so I just want to say, if you are interested in creating art, if you're interested in creating anything that is remotely entertaining, please do so. The world needs your creations, and it very much would enjoy whatever you have to make. People want to know, and they want to see what you have to give, and whether that means using paint. You could do watercolor. I haven't experimented too much with watercolor. I'd like to maybe check that out, but I think I enjoy acrylic maybe a little more. There's oil painting. You can even use pastels, colored pencils, crayons, whatever you want to use. It's just, the options are there. And what it really comes down to is not necessarily the medium. What's more important is simply what you choose to create and what you want people to see. That's much more important than what medium you happen to use to make it, because you can make something that's any medium under the planet of the earth, and yes, to some degree it's about whether or not you've mastered the medium, but a lot more than that, it's based on how inspired are you as an artist, and how willing are you to create something that nobody has ever seen before. And I think that if you're willing to look at things from that perspective, the sky is the limit, and you will really have as many opportunities to create as you offer yourself, As long as you're willing to be inspired, you will be able to create as many things as you want. And honestly, what more can you ask for? Things should be that way, and I think that if you care about life and you care about what you're doing in life, then that should be as good an answer as anything else. I'm host Bustérs, I'm not always the expert on everything, but I think when it comes to this, I could possibly know what I'm talking about. So thank you. That has been my take on art. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk more about it in the future. I'll be right back. catch it. Okay. What? I love you. What? All right, folks. So we're talking about the difference between men and women. And I will say that when it comes to men and women, there's quite a difference. It varies quite a bit. The temperament, the way people will act, it really varies. There's a lot of stereotypes. People will talk about how women can't drive cars, That's something that a lot of people have said. I'm not even talking about a small amount. I'm talking about a lot of people. There's almost as many people who have said that women can't drive cars as there are people who've said Asian people can't drive cars. And I know that's sexist, and that's horrible, and that's shitty, and that's awful, and that's terrible, and that's unbelievable. But unfortunately, that is the case, Now, another thing that people will say, men will say that women are physically stronger than women. Now, if you were to watch an episode or a movie in the series of Jackass, you will know that there was a particular sketch or challenge, whatever they want to call it, where a woman beat the shit out of one of the people on the show. Don't remember if it was Johnny Knoxville or Steve-O. It might have been one of the two or someone else, but the point is that people are able to do some damage regardless of the gender that they are, So whether it's driving or fighting, if you know what you're doing, you're going to be better than 80 or 90% of the folks in your class on either side of the gender spectrum. Now, there have been books like Men Are From Venus, Women Are From Mars. And, people might say, holy shit, that's a person who has figured out the gender dynamics. You might be right. You might be wrong. Either way, I would like to question your approach to things. And the reason I say this is because, whatever you think, and however you may look at things, things are a little different. For example, people think that they are top tier. People think that they are the best in their industry. But that isn't necessarily true. The things that actually make you a standout person in terms of your gender or in terms of anything else are things like the ability to create, the ability to understand the fellow human, and the ability to have empathy. And I would say the ability to understand the fellow human being, as well as the ability to have empathy, are two things that people aren't really taking into mind, you know. A lot of times these days, people would rather focus on, not on the ability to have empathy, but more on the ability to, unfortunately, to manipulate or influence other people. And yes, to some degree, empathy and influence are quite similar. But influence has really, although influence has quite a bit in common with empathy, it is not at all the same thing. What I mean by that is that influence does take into account the other person's temperament. But unlike empathy, influence does not care how the other person is affected. Empathy is about caring about the other individual. It's about the desire not to cause harm. Whereas influence is completely understanding of how it works when it comes to influencing and affecting another person, but what it does not care about in its highest, most manipulative levels, what it does not care about is how that other person is affected. In other words, as long as you're able to approach the goals that you have as a person, as an influencer, in the classic sense, not in the common modern sense, but in the classic sense of influencer, if you look at that, it's really all about making the most effect on a human being and being sure that you are able to get them to do exactly what you want, regardless of how it affects them in the short term or the long term. You know, when you're doing the influencer type of action, the classic influencer type of behavior, you don't really care about that person's bottom line, and you don't really care about how it affects them years from now. You know, if you were concerned about that, you would be approaching things from a more reasonable, logical, human level, you know, a human point of view. Because yes, you can use the power of influence and the power of persuasion and the ability to affect other human beings as much as you want, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be effective. And it doesn't mean that you are going to be a nice person. So, ideally, and this doesn't go for everyone, because obviously there are cold-hearted, hateful, or at the very least, indifferent people. If you're one of those folks, and I leave no judgment, because I know there's many people in the world, and according to Betty Spaghetti, I don't know if it's true, but psychopaths, you know, the more callous individuals, allegedly are important to our society as well, because they make up the the firefighters, you know, the people who are willing and not afraid to go into houses that are on fire to save people's lives, you know. If they're saving lives and not really causing much of a negative impact, then I am willing to accept them as potentially, you know, as weird as it sounds, I'm willing to accept these folks as positive psychopaths, you know, people who are a net positive to society, even though they hold the negative label of being a psychopath. So that's my opinion on psychopaths. But for the rest of folks, what I'm trying to say is that influence and persuasion can have its positive effects. You know, if you're a salesperson, if you're someone who is trying to network with folks or build your own business, there are quite a few positive aspects when it comes to persuasion and influence. I just worry, you know, if you need to make sure that your top priorities are not just to have the most influence, but it also includes, on some level, to be a good human being that doesn't compromise your values. Because, plain and simple, if you're willing to compromise your values to be an influential person, then you will do things that ultimately you regret and ultimately you wish you never did in the first place. Now, with that said, I appreciate you folks watching. This has been another Bustérs stream, and I hope to talk to you folks in the future.